you're not paying for your English lessons, to ask for trick or treat, and the neighbors call the police. There is no excuse nowadays in the era of AI, in the era of language learning apps. The only person stopping you from becoming fluent and being more confident is you. Today, I'm not only going to tell you how I learned English back in the 1990s in a country like Cuba, but I'm also going to share with you some of the most effective strategies I was exposed to as a young learner. And on top of that, I'm going to give you an upgraded version of those strategies so that you can add them to your English action plan and finally make 2025 the year you reach fluency and become a more confident English speaker. Make sure you stick around till the very end, because I'll be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of having learned English in a country such as Cuba. And let me tell you that my English learning journey didn't finish in Cuba. I'm Cazette. This is Break the English Ice. Let's dive in. I'm gonna break it down into 5 key stages according to my learning progress at the time, and I'm gonna relate them to the CEFR, the Common European Framework of Reference. Just in case you're not familiar with it, it's divided into 3 main levels, and each level is divided into 2. So level A, it's for basic users, and you have pre-A1 or young learners, you have A1, and you have A2 for lower intermediate, let's say. Then you have level B, which is an independent user, and it is divided into 2 as well. B1, which is intermediate, and B2, which would be an upper intermediate learner. And then we finally have the C1 or the C2 levels, which are advanced, and it would refer to more fluent and proficient users, of course. So it all started when I was about 9 years old. My best friend had been learning English with a very popular teacher in our neighborhood for 1 year, I think. And her mom recommended my mom that I should go to those English lessons as well, that it was very useful, the children had so much fun, and that the teacher was absolutely amazing. Within a couple of days, I was all in and I started my English learning journey. So I was a young learner, I was a beginner, I really didn't know any English at the time. I was, as I said, I think about 8 or 9 or about to turn 9. We played a lot of games and we role play a lot of very simple dialogues. That was the key to our success. Our teacher got us speaking since the very first day. We were not afraid of making mistakes because she made it so natural that we just were speaking without realizing that we were speaking in another language. So from what I remember, from this first year as a young learner, I remember we would sing a lot of songs like the ABC, Twinkle Twinkle, Hickory Hickory Dock, Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes, John Brown had a little Indian, John Brown had a little Indian, John Brown had a little Indian, one little Indian boy. Then you had to count up to 10 and then count back to 1. And I remember our teacher emphasizing the fact that it was one little Indian boy, with that gesture even, and then when getting to the 10 little Indian boys, you see. So we were learning very useful grammatical points or topics without realizing that we were, and that was key to our later success. We would play a lot of games as well, like I Spy with My Little Eye, a lot of miming games, Simon Says, and many other games that I really don't remember all of them, but I do remember that we played lots of games and we had so much fun. This was one of the best things of our classes. We enjoyed our classes so much that we learned in a very fun way, and we didn't even realize the progress that we were making. I remember one of the things we did the most was role playing. We would role play very simple and basic dialogues, such as introducing yourself. So, for example, the dialogue would go, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" "Hi, my name is Cassette. Nice to meet you. How old are you?" "I'm 9 years old. How about you?" and the other person wouldn't answer, and so on. So it was very simple, but I remember that we didn't even write, and our teacher asked us to memorize these dialogues, and she would always say, talk to the mirror. I think this strategy, by the way, is so underrated. You should talk to yourself. I mean, it's not crazy. It's very useful, actually. And she would tell us, talk to the mirror. Talk to yourself in front of the mirror and memorize this dialogue. We would practice the dialogues during our classes. And then we had to memorize the dialogues, and the next class we would role play the dialogues, you see? So that was so powerful because we used our memories a lot and we understood the general idea of the dialogue. I don't remember having translated these dialogues to my native language, which is Spanish. I just remember having to memorize the dialogues, and they were very short because we were little kids, young learners. But the fact that you were speaking in English from the very first day and that you were memorizing, we didn't even make mistakes. And I remember her role-playing the dialogue first with several students during the class, and she would emphasize the pronunciation, the intonation, but it was all very natural. And I remember enjoying talking to myself in front of the mirror so much that I still do it to this day. I still talk to myself all the time in English, and that is a strategy you should start doing right away. It's very useful. No one is criticizing you, and you will get into the practice of speaking. Then, of course, you have to do some other things that I'm going to talk later on, but start doing that. Talk to yourself and find dialogues for some. So let's move on to the upgraded version of this strategy. You can go to ChatGPT. There is no excuse nowadays in the era of AI, in the era of language learning apps. There isn't a single excuse. The only person stopping you from becoming fluent and being more confident is you. Nobody else is stopping you. If you are not making progress, it's because you're not doing enough, right? So an upgraded version of that role-playing strategy for today could be, you can just go to ChatGPT. It's a very useful tool, and you can use it to your own benefit. So you go to ChatGPT and you say, write a simple dialogue about daily routines, or write a simple dialogue about introducing yourself. Write a simple dialogue at a restaurant. Write a simple dialogue at the airport. I mean, you name it. You do, and you ask for what you want to start with. So once ChatGPT gives you the dialogue, you can start role-playing it. And I've heard this so many times, I don't have anyone to practice with. Well, start practicing by yourself. So if you don't have anyone you can role play the dialogue with, you can start by yourself, and then you read the dialogue, you read it again and read it again. Remember, repetition is key. And once you feel ready, put up your camera and start filming yourself. And you can actually keep a record of your learning progress. So start practicing the dialogue, role play it by yourself, and once you're ready, I'm going to tell you something that I've never heard so many people talk about. Try finding a person. I know you're going to tell me, I don't have anyone to practice with, or I don't have anyone who speaks English. So try to find a partner that you can teach what you have already learned, and you can practice together. That would be very useful. This strategy is so underrated. You can find someone that you can actually teach what you are learning, and you can practice with that person. So I know if you want more excuses and then you'll say, I can't find anyone, or I don't know, I don't want to find anyone. Okay, there must be someone in your family. And you can teach people in your family what you are learning. I don't know if you know, but teaching is one of the best ways of learning. We remember 90% of what we teach, because when you teach something, you need to know it very well in order to explain it to the other person. So do it. Believe me, I promise it's going to make a big difference. So that is an upgraded version of our role plays. When it comes to games, this is not my favorite upgraded strategy, but I'm going to give it to you anyways, and you do as you wish. Playing video games. I've heard so many of my students tell me that they have made so much progress by playing video games. So, disclaimer, as I'm telling you, I don't like the video games idea and the style and the screen time, especially for children. But if you are a person who likes playing video games, and if you are really into playing video games, find video games in English that you can play, and you will learn a lot of vocabulary. Playing video games is not enough. You have to speak. So remember, you have to use all these strategies if you want to make progress. But playing video games will help you learn a lot of new vocabulary. So that is kind of a useful upgraded version of the games that we played. Speaking about music, listening to music, it's such an amazing and useful way of immersing yourself in the language and creating your language bubble. And I think that I have an upgraded strategy that can be very useful. And I used to do it at the time, I swear, I promise I did. So nowadays, it's very easy to listen to music in English and then find the lyrics. And then you can learn the song and sing it. But what about if you start listening to music in English and then you try to write down the lyrics by yourself first, and then you find the lyrics online and then you can check. You will probably get used to, as I said, to the pronunciation, the intonation, to connected speech, and then you will understand the songs and the meaning of the songs better. So try to do that instead of just going online, finding the lyrics and learning the song. Try to write the lyrics by yourself and then listen to the music. You can listen and stop and write, and then you check it. There are also some websites that you can find the lyrics of the songs with some missing words, and then you have to listen to the song and then complete the missing words in the lyrics. Let's wrap up this stage. This was my young learner stage, and I have to tell you that by the end of this first academic year, because it was an academic year, I got my first diploma. At the time, it was very simple. As you can see, our teacher managed to reward us in the best way she could, and with the resources she had, and sometimes the resources that she didn't have, but she managed to get. So let's talk about, before we move to the next stage, let's talk about the good of this stage. I can't find any bad, to be honest, because I was very little. So everything for me was very good. And even though we didn't have any materials, we didn't have flashcards, we didn't have, as I said, an overhead projector, we had so much fun. And that is, for me, the best of these very first steps into my English learning journey, that I had so much fun. And that is something that you should consider when you are starting your English learning journey, and you should keep that at the top of your list when you come up with your action plan. You have to do things that you enjoy. You need to have fun. If not, it's going to be like a boring process. It's going to be a dull activity for you. So you need to have fun. You need to enjoy it. So find things that you like doing. Start with the topics that you are more interested in, and start with the things that are more useful for you according to what you need to do with the language, because you need to have a purpose. So set your goal, set your purpose. Why do I want to learn English? And start with that. But remember, keep it enjoyable. Keep it something fun, and keep it something short. Very simple. Set very simple goals. When you set achievable goals, they look more realistic. If not, you're going to get bored and you're going to give up very quickly. So let's move to the lower intermediate stage. I was moving from A1 to A2 in the CFR. I was still a basic user, a beginner, to be honest, but I was very proud that I could spell my name, answer some basic questions about personal information, and it was a great achievement for me at the time, to be honest. So I grabbed myself a cup of coffee. By the way, I wanted to let you know that I'm doing this completely for free, and you can support the channel by subscribing, of course, but you can also tip me and buy me a coffee. I will leave the link in the description below for you. At this stage, role plays got really serious. You can see behind me some of my favorite ones. All of them were about everyday conversations and very useful topics like going to a restaurant or going to an airport or interviewing someone. It wasn't only for the fact of learning the dialogues by heart and performing them, but we learned a lot of vocabulary through these dialogues. I have one here that is an everyday conversation. So the first thing we would do was read the dialogue during the lesson and analyze the vocabulary, where was taking place and what was it about, so that our teacher checked our comprehension of the dialogue. One of the things we did, apart from performing the dialogue by itself, was that after doing so, we had to change some of the words. Like, for example, what are you doing this weekend? By saying, what are you doing on Saturday? So I'm going away, or you can say I'm going to London or I'm going to Paris, you see? So we had to use those phrases or words that we had there and change the dialogue as many ways as possible. And we practiced with a partner during the class, and then at the end of the class we would perform the dialogue. You cannot imagine how meaningful and powerful this was. My teacher probably did some other things, but these ones are the ones I remember the most. By the way, I would like to interview her one day. Are you interested in meeting my teacher? That would be a great idea. Let me know in the comments below. So an upgraded version of these role plays could be go and find online your favorite movies and your favorite movie scenes and write down those dialogues, and you can just learn them and role play them. Remember, there's no excuse if you have no one to practice with. Just do it by yourself, and then you can find someone who's interested in learning English. You can find a partner online. Nowadays, there is no excuse. You can even practice with someone that is on the completely opposite side of the world. You can get online on a phone call, a video call, and then you can practice. So just go online. Find a dialogue. There are so many here on YouTube as well for beginners. Remember that you need to find something that is at your level, and then you can move the level up a little bit as you go so that you don't get frustrated. Keep in mind that it is super important to enjoy the process and to have fun. Make sure that you find something that you're interested in, so a topic that you're really keen on and something that you really like, so that you just enjoy it. It was at this stage that our teacher started to incorporate some American celebrations, and through those celebrations, we would learn English as well. An example of that is Halloween. Our teacher prepared a Halloween celebration for us. She taught us Halloween songs and Halloween chants and Halloween dialogues. So it was all about learning English through this celebration. We were learning a lot of vocabulary. We were doing a lot of these Halloween-related dialogues, and we had to disguise ourselves. I'll leave a picture for you here of me dressing like a witch, and my mom came up with that costume. It was all handcrafted. And the ugly thing about that was that day, I remember we went out through our teacher's neighborhood to ask for trick or treat, and the neighbors called the police. The neighbors had called the police because Halloween was an American celebration, and for obvious reasons, American celebrations were forbidden in Cuba. And I mean, for us and for our teacher, the point wasn't the celebration by itself, but we were learning English in a meaningful way through that celebration. So there you have one of the ugly things that we had to face. But after all, our teacher managed to come up with a trick-or-treat idea at her own house. I remember that day we had a blackout as well, but that didn't stop us. It even made Halloween more creepy. You see? What I remember is that we really had a great time, and we had so much fun, and we learned a lot. But unfortunately, there were some things that our teacher couldn't do because it was not allowed, and that was it. And another bad thing that happened at this stage was that my parents got divorced. We were not in a very good financial situation at that period of time, and I remember that we struggled to get the money to pay for that month of my English lessons. And I have a very vivid memory of approaching my teacher and giving her the money that we had to pay for that month. And of course, she was aware of what was happening in my family, and including the financial situation. And she said, no, I can't accept the money. You're not paying for your English lessons. We insisted, and she said, no, Cosette, you are not paying for your English lessons ever again. And I remember that after that, she didn't accept any other payment from us. She said that I was going to learn English no matter what. My teacher never, ever again charged any money for my English lessons to my family. So that means that from the age of 10, I didn't pay for my English lessons anymore. And that is so powerful because my financial limitation wasn't an obstacle to continue learning English. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. So you see, even though we had some ugly and bad things, the good thing was that I kept learning, and I'm here today.